Hello, everybody. Tonight I'm gonna continue working on my project, which is a SharePoint framework web part. And I think the last time there was an issue where um we're having an issue where it was failing with same API calls, and it turns out it was just because I didn't wrap it in a use effect. So I had AI help me out a little bit with that error. And now we have this set up correctly. Now, perhaps the biggest hurdle now is determining what component is rendered based on the configuration object. That is to say, based on the configuration object, we're going to have to do a switch statement to render the correct component. So we're basically going to have this render component function. I'm thinking that we could technically use preview, this one right here. And then in the layout selector, you can have these load. So render component. Let's copy this all the way up to up here. And let's paste that into. All right. So now that we have that, we need to, not sure what I'm missing here. I think it's because I'm inside of FAQ main, which I would have to go up to components. It's so we go up one file that would be we're in components. And I think we needed to. Let me try something. It's gonna be dash dash FAQ layouts. Why is that working, but this isn't? I think I know why already. Because the lazy has to be outside of the component, and I'm putting it inside the component. But it's not. But the question is, oh, I see what. I am not feeling so good. I think I ate something that makes making me feel a little bit sick. But I'm gonna try to power through. Let's get rid of this. Put this outside the component. Why is this still giving me? Okay, FAQ layouts. Oh, wait a minute. Accordion, accordion. How did we get 2 folders for FAQ layout? That's bizarre. I don't even remember doing that. But I'm gonna try to figure out what happened there, why that was made that way. This is not gonna be this way, so on this one, we're gonna be looking at the configuration dot layout. Oh wait, yeah, configuration object layout, and if the layout is let's go look at the options that could be out. Oh, we can look here. Right here. These are the options that we have to work with. So let's bring these in here. We're gonna say tab layout. Accordion layout. List layout. And finally, we have image layout. And obviously the default is gonna and we can get rid of this now. And then tabbed shimmer, we need to just import these. Okay, so those are imported. And then for render component, it's going to be the same thing. So here, tabbed layout. Oops, need to put that in quotes. And instead, this is going to be the same thing. Configuration object dot layout. Yeah. So the next case is accordion. And then the next case is going to be list layout. Then the last case is image layout, and then default is we're gonna need description, which is a string imported here. So let's add description string and description. What other errors do we have? Here we go. So now what else do we have as errors? Render component, render loader. Oh, sorry, I just don't feel very good. Anyway, selected key, return selected key. What is this used for? Oh, I know why. We can get rid of this. Let's get rid of that. And let's get rid of this. And these. And obviously we're gonna have to go fix it so that tabbed, this right here, selected key, and these two, I'm gonna move these down. And then these are just gonna make them options. This is gonna create errors too. an accordion as well. Selected key and set selected key. We're gonna make these optional as well. And cannot be, yeah, so selected key. Was expanded and key. But I know this is gonna be and select. Technically I can just do this. I know that this isn't ideal, but I could technically just do this. That's probably gonna cause errors, but we'll find out in a minute. Let's select the key. This is not good. I don't like that I'm doing this at all. I don't like what I'm doing. That looks, it's crappy development. And I don't like to be considered that kind of developer. So yes, selected key is gonna be optional, but be my best option for this. Because the only other option I'm gonna have to do is, oh wait a minute, I do need that. Never mind, I do need those things. So these need to be, they need to stay the way they were. And we need to keep this here. Selected key and set selected key are gonna have to be things I bring in. And that was in not preview, but FAQ layout selector. Selected key and set selected key. Just bring that in here. And then get rid of the errors here. So how do we get rid of the errors? We return, we put this in a parenthesis. And now we have our main component here. Yeah, we can do this. Let's see how this works. Keep on pushing the wrong button. Is there a way that I can change that? I think it's, oh no. Alt shift. No? Alt shift. I know that I don't want to make it so small that nobody can see what I'm doing. Okay. Now let's go see what this PQ main. Oh. PQ main, what is it? Oh, because we didn't pass that. Okay, so go back to default layout. And the one that's missing is what? We have configuration of FAQ topics, FAQ item, and it's missing description. And I believe we had made it, description was the first one. So description. As you go to description. Look at that. Oh wait, what? Oh, because I don't publish it. Not again. Fantastic. Oh, now it's working. Okay. So I guess right now it's set to accordion. That's why it's opening up like this. But this is great. Look at this. This is working. Anyway, we built it so that you could configure it by, so a typical user is going to come to this page and they're going to say, you know what? I need to add frequently asked questions because I have a new project or I have a new presentation coming up. So they're going to come to the SharePoint site. They're going to edit the page. All right. They're going to click here and then say, I'm sorry, not there. They're going to click here, edit the page. And then they're going to be presented with the configuration setup for the Webpart for what they're doing. What is this nonsense? Close the toolbox. Okay, so they're going to be presented with this, and then they're going to be able to select the topics that they want, the questions they want in here for each one of them. And then when they go to preview, they're going to be able to select the way they want it to look. But in my case, I'm changing it now to look like an image layout. So now when I save the configuration, excuse me. So you see how it says changes saved, and now I can republish. So this is a problem because now, and now I can see it, but I shouldn't have to refresh. The user's gonna look you saw what happened, right? I changed the layout, but then I had to refresh it because it was saying that no topics had been selected. So obviously that's a problem. I shouldn't expect the user to come in here and have to refresh the page so they can see it. Basically what happened is I'm gonna do it one more time. I'm going to topics. First of all, this shouldn't even have to happen. These should already be populated already based on the saved configuration. That's another bug we need to fix. But nonetheless, let's say I change it to tab layout, or yeah, let's see what is tab layout. And then another thing that's happening is I notice it says changes not saved when I click on this, and now I click it again, and then it says changes are saved. Not entirely sure why it's doing that. But then when I republish the page, we have an error. And then when I refresh it, error is gone. And I can see my web part again. So those are all bugs that we have to fix. Because the user's gonna see those errors, and the first thing that's gonna come to their head is gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna open a ticket because this is broken. Additionally, I noticed that it says loading and then it loads this part, which is also not a good thing. Because yeah, I'm not a big fan of what's going on with that. The reason it's doing that is because in default layout, but where am I using generic loader? Let's find out. Because generic loader is that little thing that you see. It's being used here. You see, this is what's happening. This is the problem. We need to change this to whatever the configuration object is here, the config object. So based on the config object, so let's fix that first. So let's go to main. And we're going to use this render loader. And we're going to paste that into default layout. Let's paste it right before this render loader. Okay, and then here it's going to be where is it? Configuration. Just saw it. What did I miss? Wait, I'm in the wrong component. I'm supposed to put it here. Yeah, because this is what's loading before default layout. So I need that here. Let's paste this render loader. And it's going to use this config object. And then we got to import all these. These we don't have to lazy load because they're not heavy components and they're not doing any kind of API calls. They're just basically HTML. It's not like it's gonna be a big impact to your application loading and such. And now we can do this render loader here. The render loader. And we can get rid of this generic loader. And now you saw that it's fixed. We don't have that ugly bar. You probably didn't see it on the stream, but if let me make this pop out of the screen. Okay, and then when I go to network and I throttle it to 3G, you'll see what I'm talking about. Obviously going to be a little bit slow at first. So then you see this loading. This is default. I've done research. This is actually part of the page. You cannot change these bars. Okay, but then you can see you have the title here, the 2 tabs, and then you have the that layout basically. And you saw how it slowly started to move into focus, and then you have your questions. Obviously, you would expect the person using this to probably make the equal amounts of questions across the different topics. That way it doesn't look weird like mine does. What I mean by that is, let me take off the throttling. What I mean by that is they're probably not going to have a scenario where you see this, like development only has 1 question, right? They're probably going to have several questions. I mean, it puts a great deal of assumptions in place because we're going to be assuming that the user is going to obviously try to make the page as nice looking as possible, which in my experience, it works out that way. And so let's say I just say list layout, and here's the next bug we need to fix. When I click on save configuration, it says changes not saved. And then if I was to republish, now it's saying no topics are available. So I think I know what the issue is there. And then you can see my list layout in action. So the objective obviously is the people are going to be able to select the way they want this to look. They're going to publish it and then they're going to see it on their screen. And they're not limited. The good thing is that they're not limited. Like, say for instance, if I click on edit and they want to do something a little bit different. Let's go to the page and let's say 2 columns. Okay. And then we're going to duplicate this one and we're going to move it over to this side. And then we're going to move this one up next to this one. The only difference is that on this one, move the topics. I think I need to also fix this part. Add the questions. And then, so this one I believe was set to list, and we can set this one to accordion. It'll look like this. So you can see they're going to be able to put multiple ones. As a matter of fact, they could even say, you know what, I'm only going to put 1 topic on this one. So I'm only going to put general here, but I don't want to show development on this one. Oh, shoot, I deleted the topic. That is actually not a good thing. That I also need to fix that, because they shouldn't be able to delete things without having some kind of verification, because they might accidentally click on that delete button and goodbye question. But let's let me bring that question back. Let me refresh this. If I go to recycle bin, we can restore a lot of these. Wait, no, let's not go crazy. Well, yeah, let's do that. Let's restore, see what happens. Okay, so now if we refresh this, and now, like I said, this one is only gonna have the only topic there. What happened to my other topic? Did it just get rid of it altogether? It looks like it got rid of the topics. We only have general. It looks like the other one was completely deleted. So let's add a new topic and let's call it development. Okay, there's a new topic. So on this one, we're only gonna add general. Close this, and on this one, we're gonna add development and get rid of general. That is weird. Even though it's two separate web parts, it's actually very weird. I've never seen something like that before, because it's actually mirroring. I wonder if I remove them. Let's say I only add general here, and then I add all my questions, and I'm in the preview, and I set this up right here like this, and I'm gonna save the configuration to this one. And then on this one, I'm gonna take off general, add development. There's no questions. And I'm not able to add a question. Oh man, this is bad. Not good. That's another bug. Why am I not able to see in development? Why am I not able to add a question? If I go to questions here, there's available questions as a number. Apparently I never put the button back. Let's go look for add a add. Okay, so it looks like we don't have an add a question functionality built into this, which is not good. Let's go to question answer and add that. Question answer. So in question answer, let's go to add a question functionality. So we have our tabs, we have our title section, question selector. Where do we want to put it? We want to put it maybe next to available questions. Available question. Available questions. I don't see. I don't. It would have to be where the form is at, the question form. So FAQ form. This right here. So where's FAQ form used? Here. In question answer. And in question answer, we have an add FAQ item. Where's that at? Inside here, which is part of this function, which is in here. But why am I not seeing toggle hide dialog is used by the question selector. So inside of the question selector, toggle hide item is used there. So we need to add a functionality here. I thought I had one already though, but add question to topic. Where's toggle hide dialog in here? 1, 2, 3. The 24 handle edit. Because right now this is basically what's happening. We have the ability to click on this edit icon and see the questions there. So we need to add the ability to add a question. And I believe the added question should be right on top of the tabs. And the tabs are where? Up here. So right above the tabs under the title section, we need to have an action button. Yep. And this is exactly what we needed to do. Action button. And then let's put some text next to it. So title, add a question to topic, and then text, add question topic. And then we need to have on click, we need to set, we need to use a function, and we need to do two things. We need to open the form and we need to clear the values of the form. So to clear the values of the form first, because what I mean by clear the values of the form is if I go to questions, if I go to topics and I add the topics, when I go to questions, you can see that you have that add a question, right? So it's clear, it's good, it's clean. But watch what happens when I edit this question and then I go back to add a question. Problem, it's not clear. So that's what I'm doing is I'm going to clear it first. So how do we clear it? Well, if you look at the handle edit, which is over here, you're setting the current item question to whatever the question is that you clicked on the edit. So obviously, you need to clear that. And so to clear that, we need to set current item to undefined. Where is my error at down here? So here, set current FAQ item undefined, and then we toggle the dialog. But we still have another error, or we have another issue. And the issue is that we haven't defined what topic we're adding the question to. That means that, let me get rid of this because that way we can have one column. There we go. The other issue we have is, yes, I can edit here. I'm sorry. I mean, let's go to questions. That's what I'm working on. So I can go to, wait, none of my questions are showing up now. What did I do? Wait, it's because none of my topics are there. None of the questions are showing up. Why? What is going on? I should be able to see the questions. So if I go to topics. Oh, there we go. That was weird. But anyway, so I can edit and then I can add and you can see that it clears the form. But the problem that I have is I haven't defined where to put it. So this add a question really needs to be next to this badge. And that badge obviously is inside of the question selector, because I believe the badge is up in the top right hand corner. Let's see. Here we go. See, available question length. So right here next to this one, is where we actually need the ability to add a question. So this action button actually needs to be, the action button needs to be inside a question selector next to the badge. And let's bring in this. Okay, so now the action button is going to have to do something else for us. So here's the badge, here's a button. And we're going to need set current. We need to be able to set the current topic ID. Question is, how do we know which one it is? Question bar, question, available questions. Wait a minute. I think I know what I'm doing. I think I know what I'm doing. Because technically when I click on development, I'm setting up the topic ID. So actually I had it right. I don't have to do this. Let me undo this. And this one, redo what I just. Okay. The reason I'm saying this is because technically when I click on the add a button, I should be setting. What I'm trying to say is this tab uses the topic ID. And you can see set parent ID and index is working correctly here. And so the topic index, oh, that's a problem. That's a problem because we need to also have a set topic ID. Topic ID. Set topic ID, which is going to be a number, and then set topic ID is going to be something that we're going to be doing here. Whenever somebody clicks on the tab, we're going to do this. But set ID and index. Set parent ID. Wait, I do have a parent ID. Okay, so never mind. I won't need this. But is the parent ID being used in the form is the question. Current FAQ item. Let's find out. What happens when we click on new? So if we add a topic, add a question to the topic, let's inspect this component. We're gonna go check what the store says. For the parent ID, it's saying parent ID is 10. Because now the question is for the form values, doesn't have the correct form values. And the form values are right here. So we expand form, date, default values. Nope, parent ID is set to 0. So the form needs to have that property passed to it. Parent ID. And let's open the FAQ form. And this one's gonna need to have the parent. I don't know why I'm putting 0. We just need parent ID. In the form, after toggle hide dialog, parent ID, which is going to be number, parent ID. Wait a minute. We don't even need to do that either now. Because remember, we have the onSubmit function as a function in the parent component. So I am mistaken again. Let's take that off. Oh wait. Let's take off this parent ID. I won't need it. Because we need to just say in our function callback for submit. Where is our submit function? Because our form uses a submit FAQ form function. This one right here. If data ID equals 0, parent ID equals parent ID. Okay, so we don't need it. It sets it when we submit it. What's basically happening is right now you see that the form, if we look at the form values right here, parent ID is set to 0. Okay, which is fine because we're saying the form is going to submit this data, but it's going to use the submit function that is part of the parent. So if we look at the containers of the components, you see the FAQ form is here, but the parent container for FAQ form is the modal form, but the modal form is inside of question answer. And if we look at question answer, we have the parameter parent ID here. So the function is going to use the onSubmit function that's in the parent. And the parent having a non-submit function, we're basically saying if data ID, which again, it is going to be 0. So you can see data ID is 0. What does that mean? It means that we're creating a new item because we don't have an ID for it. So when we create a new item, we know that data ID is 0, and therefore we need to get the parent ID, which naturally would be the parent ID of the tab we're on. So if the tab we're on, if we look at the question answer and we look at the state for parent ID there, which would be in here, parent ID is 10. So when we get to the submit function, it's going to get to that conditional and it's going to say, okay, is the ID 0? It is. Okay. If it is 0, then we know that we can add that question there, and let's test it. So right now we're in development. There is no questions. So let's go get some lorem ipsum. Okay. Where does it come from? Let's add this question here. And then the answer. Let's just get some random text in. Oops. So here, add this. When I click submit, you see that there's a question now in development. So it's working. And if we go check the back end, let's go to contents. If we go to topics, we have development, which is ID 10, which remember we looked at it and it was ID 10. So that's correct. And then if we go to questions, FAQ list, which is all the list of all of our questions. Where does it come from? Is the one we did, and you see parent ID is 10. And that's why we're able to see under development the question. If I add another question, for instance, why do we use it? And we add another bit of text and we submit it, there's a new question. And you can see back in the back end, this is the one we added before. If I refresh it, here's another one. Why do we use it? And you can see my text there. Good. And you can see that the parent ID is 10. Hello, thank you for joining. Somebody said hello in the chat. Yeah, so that is currently working. The only thing that I didn't care for is if I delete the questions and if I go back and refresh, you can see that my parent ID is 10. The two that I have added for 10 are gone. but it doesn't show anything. Like, you know, under development, I think I should be able to see no questions available here. And that goes into the question selector. If available questions length is equal to 0, this is showing that, okay, so the issue that we have is it under question answer maybe? Yeah, it's under question answer. Here. If FAQ parents ID, then show the question selector. So this needs to be a question mark. And then this wait, what am I missing? First of all, get rid of that. This closes that. This closes here. And here we need stack placeholder. And what are the properties on that? What? I thought placeholder was a, what is placeholder? No blank selected. And look at that, I misspelled that. Anyway, we need to find and create something that basically says, you know, no questions found, which actually we can get from the very question selector. Under question selector, we can add this div empty state. So no questions found. No questions found for topic. And we need empty state, empty icon, empty text. And we can bring that from question selector, empty state, empty icon. So let's go look at question selector. And we need the classes empty state, empty icon, empty text. Let's go look. Empty state, empty icon, and empty text. Let's copy these three classes into our question answer style. This is our question answer style. We gotta add those. And then we gotta bring in icon. Make sure that we're bringing in only icon. And icon obviously is not part of that. Port. Perfect. And now when we go back, we can go to topics, add our topics. No questions found for this topic. Very good. I love it when things just work. I don't know about this checkbox though. It should be more like an X. But where is it? Question answer. Right here. Icon checkbox composite. That's why we see that icon. Let's go look and see what other icon. I'm thinking we can use something like something that denotes that it's empty, right? Like, do we have an empty icon? Field empty. Oh, sorry. Long day. What can we use for bank body? Um, Trying to find something that kind of is an icon that's like basically saying, hey, there's nothing here. I know everybody probably thinks of like cancel because it's just like an X, right? Like that. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be yawning, but I had a really long day and I didn't really feel well earlier. I'm starting to feel a little bit better actually, but I don't know. We'll see how things go. So anyway, topics, development, no questions found. I guess the X looks okay. That X looks all right. I mean, it's basically saying there's nothing there. So I mean, what else? What else do we need? Yeah, I can't think of anything else that we can use there from an icon perspective. You know, what may be missing. So we're using this cancel, more, stop. You can also use blocked. I think blocked would probably look better than cancel. Close the toolbox, topics. I go to development. That looks better. I think that looks better. No questions found for this topic. And obviously, as soon as we add a question, let me paste it based on what we put here. Now we have a question and no questions there is gone, right? Okay, perfect. And if we add another question, where does it come from? Or where does it come here? And add our questions, general. We can add just questions to general. Let's do a list layout. Actually, I had said that for topic, I was only going to use general on this pre-published. General, add the questions, save configuration. Okay, publish, edit the page. Now we're going to take this one, 2 columns. Add FAQ web part. Now this one is to development. Questions, add the questions from development. And on this one, we're going to use tabbed. So clearly we have errors. Oh, wait, because on this one, I said development. Add the questions. Let's put this as, let's see if it is that. Save configuration. Republish. Oh man, that's bad. Why does it do that? I wonder if I can edit this. This one's a list, and this one's accordion. That's weird. It's not supposed to show them alike. It's different. It's very weird that I'm having like states cross from one part of the page to another. That I should be able to put multiple of these things and not have that scenario occurring. But it's a little weird that even though, like, if we look at the setup, you can see very clearly here that this is a list layout and this is an accordion layout. And yet, when I publish the page, first of all, there's errors. When I refresh it, and here's what's even more crazy, is that this is Webpart test and this is FAQs. Testing 2, list layout. Testing 2, FAQ Webpart. That is bizarre. That's got to be the weirdest scenario I've had to date, that I can very clearly see that the data is different, but for some reason, I'm still. It almost looks like. It almost looks like the issue is. Oh, that's what the issue is. The issue is that. Let's publish the page. I know what the issue is. Which, I mean, we're gonna fix those errors that we're seeing right now. But the reason we're seeing that error that we're seeing is because, let's go to default layout. Default layout. Um, and we're looking for configuration, which is a string. Here's the configuration. We're passing it into FAQ main. Let me refresh it. You can see it's very weird because watch what happens with the loaders. Let me inspect this. And if I go to network and I throttle it to 3G, there's something very weird happening. And I think I know what it is. There is a default value showing up. Okay, though that's normal. We should be able to see those look exactly the same. But here's where the change is a little bit weird. Coming up here. So we see? This one looks like it has the tabs, and this one doesn't look like it has it. And then all of a sudden it does have the tabs. Now we're showing. And the reason we're seeing that is because in the FAQ web part, we're basically saying this right here. So it's reading that correctly. But then by the time it gets down to default layout, right here, and FAQ main, it's getting this configuration. That's what it's using. So anyway, that's one of the errors that is occurring, and the reason it's occurring is because of the fact that when we are loading this inside a default layout, we're saying, I'm sorry, an FAQ web part. I think this is the issue right here. I got rid of this. Why is it saying string undefined? Oh, I knew that's what. No, I don't want it. What I already had. Um, but why is configuration undefined? Configuration is string. And configuration is part of what? This web part props. Configuration is, get rid of this. It is, then we don't have to part. I have an error. It's still throttled, so it's gonna load a little bit slow, which is normal. Okay, looks good. Should be seeing that. Okay, they look different, and now they look the same. So config object. I think what we need to do is just take config object and pass it into. Oh, we also have it here. We need to get rid of this. Do no throttling. Okay, so we're passing configuration into default layout, and then in default layout, we have configuration there, and we're passing it in here. So, and then in FAQ main, so look at FAQ main. In FAQ main, we're taking configuration. Load from configuration object. Load from configuration. Okay, so load from configuration sets the configuration object, and the configuration object does all this. The problem is that the configuration object is changing my layout. That's what's weird. Because I very clearly have two different layouts. This one has a list layout and this. Oh, that's why. That's why this is not showing correctly. It was supposed to be development. And my questions. There we go. That's why it was not republish. Now both. Why? That is weird. I have never seen this before. List layout, accordion layout. That is bizarre. And then when I change this, they're both accordion layout. That is weird. If I had to guess, I think the issue is the Webpart store. The issue is the Webpart store. React and Zustand, because Zustand is defined on its own, like in the store, I think that, and there's one cool way to find out. So if we go to inspect, and we inspect this page, here we go. And then we go to the components. Watch what happens when I click on this component. So here's our component. And here's our FAQ web part, and it has a store. Watch what let's look at the store here. The store in the state configuration, accordion layout. Accordion layout, it's correct. But then watch this. Go to this one. Okay. So this one's also an FAQ web part. We go to bound store. I guarantee you this is the issue. I would be very surprised if it's not accordion layout. That's what the error is. So the error is that the stand is basically messing everything up. We need to figure out a different way to define the states so that they don't interfere with each other. And I really never thought that Zustand would be causing an issue like this, to be quite frank. And it kind of makes sense that it would, right? Because Zustand is a global state manager. And global defines it's part of the document object model. And the document object model does not differentiate between these two pieces because that is set to be a globalized state that could technically be used everywhere. And because that's the case, it basically takes whatever ran last and runs with that. That's why when we first see it loads them differently, right? But then once that different changes, that you see it loading in two identical pieces, is because Zustand has already overridden that secondary state that's supposed to be separate. And it's basically bridging both of them together. So if the user tries to use this in two different parts of the page, it's never gonna look different. It's always gonna look the same. But this is a good way of troubleshooting. I definitely recommend that when you're building stuff with React, you install this React developer tools. Because with this, you're able to go into the actual page and see each individual component in React independently and see what the values are within the state. The data that you typically wouldn't see, right? So I'm already gonna call it for today. Usually I like to stream longer on weekends, but like I said, I haven't really been feeling well. Been a little bit of a long day. But we'll meet up again Monday and we'll see how far we can get. Hopefully we can work out these bugs and bring this to a close and work on our next project. Hopefully you'll be able to join me from the very beginning of a project so you can see how I go about developing a project from the very beginning. This time, however, what I'm going to do differently is I'm actually going to plan it out. Like we're going to actually do a deep dive into architecture so that we can make sure that we build this architecturally sound and we eliminate a lot of the problems that you've been seeing with my development of this right now. The majority of the problems that I have with my development right now is the lack of planning, right? It's like the old saying goes, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I mean, there's always solutions, right? And so far you've seen that I've been able to troubleshoot and fix a lot of the issues that I've had. But a lot of these issues could have been avoided if I just had, at the very beginning, I would have planned it a little bit better. I got excited. I got into streaming and sharing and developing that I just kind of lost sight of that. And hopefully on the next project, we can do a little bit more of that and even be a little bit more advanced. For the next project, I think we could do like a really elaborate single page application that allows you to build an entire application within just a piece of a page. But anyway, I'll leave that for the next time. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.